Asteroid of fear.
This is Amber McCrae with Connection Over Perfection. I'm also part of the Podcast Connection Network. Check out my show and other shows like the one you're about to listen to. The link is in the episode description.
But yeah, YouTube has been kind of one of my things.
YouTube University, yeah.
I started with more of that. All right, so I'll just tell everybody. We get the Men of the House podcast here in Austin, Texas with Just Be with Scottie G. And doing a little double podcast today. So I'm going to ask him some questions. I was on the first half.
You want to do yours first, or you want to do mine first?
I'm going to start off with a few of mine.
Yeah, I'm down.
Like a few questions and mix these in.
Yeah, my questions are very basic. You
know? So is it Just Be or moderately good?
So I
realized that's changed.
So yeah, so when we started the podcast, it was me and a buddy, and he's my camera guy. He's the one that does all my stuff when we go on location. We were kind of just jacking around the garage. My coaching at the time, I called it life moderated. The concept was, moderation and balance, which is still the concept of my coaching. The name was so just stale. It just felt so stale, And so it just made sense to call the podcast a moderately good podcast, around that same theme. And then somewhere along the way, I changed my idea of my coaching, and this whole idea of Just Be came from one of my therapists that said a statement to me that just resonated with me even today. And so that's what became Just Be. And then I realized that, what I was doing on the podcast was kind of my coaching. It was Just Be. That was it. And so it made sense to change the name. I always tell people it's kind of like, when a musician starts playing music, he probably just doesn't play the genre of music that he likes or plays, or he might even get in a band that is not his favorite genre of music. And if he were to be in a country band and then go play metal, they wouldn't keep the same name.
Right.
And so the evolution of what has happened for me brought on the evolution. And so it just made sense. You know what I mean? It didn't make sense to keep it a moderately good podcast anymore. Even though I just love, I got a lot of compliments on the name. Everyone thought it was clever. I loved it. It's like having a child, and now I'm giving up my child. So there is a level of like loss, a lot of vintage retro. I got a lot of vintage retro merchandise if anybody's interested.
But what I love the Just Be, because I love the three little things after it. What does it be? Be this, be that. But what does it say? They'll adjust.
Yeah.
And that was, because I feel like you were wearing a shirt that said that.
Yes.
And I loved it. I was like, because when I was looking, I was like, wait, that's different. That's different. But then I saw the shirt first, and then I saw the logo type of thing that kind of changing over. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, but I love they'll adjust. And that's, I think of that whenever I think of like, I feel like I'm starting to not be myself authentically. I think of that. They'll adjust.
My girlfriend is she's my biggest supporter in everything I do, mainly because she allows me the time. She gives me the time to do these things, and she does it without judgment, and I don't ever feel guilty, and she encourages me and stuff like that. But she has the biggest problem with that shirt. She always tells me, she goes, I'll never wear that shirt. And it's always because, she always, well, what if that person's an asshole? You know what I mean? They don't get to continue to be an asshole and I have to adjust to them and stuff like that. And I go, but there's a level of like, we're always adjusting to others. So if someone's an asshole to me, I'm not adjusting to them when I leave the situation to get me away from them. I'm not adjusting to them. I'm taking care of myself, and I'm being authentic to myself. I'm allowing them to adjust to my loss of not being there. You know, they're the person that's losing in that scenario to me. And so I can see how someone would see the part and go, they'll adjust and have a negative feeling around it. But, you know, I'm not worried about everybody else. I'm worried. I'm worried about me. It's like, you know, the whole focus is me. Be present, be authentic, you know, be humble, be gracious. You know, that's me. That's who I'm trying to be. You know what I mean? If I'm doing all those things, then I don't have to worry about being the asshole that everyone has to adjust to.
It reminds me of something I've been thinking about. And I think you had mentioned it in a previous podcast of where it was one of the moms of somebody, and you, maybe Marcel, but you were like, when you put negativity out, like that's what that vibration. I've kind of started to feel the same way about mental health. I feel like mental health it's a bad thing. It's always a negative. And kind of, you know, the last part of your questions and some of what I look at and what I want to turn around are more like, kind of like physical fitness. Like obesity is a negative word, but like physical health or physical fitness isn't necessarily. Now, can we take mental health but it's going to take the world getting into better mental health to make it a positive thing. But I like to refer to mental health as, instead of focusing on the negative parts of it, to think of it as the healthy parts of it. Like, what am I doing for my mental health? Well, I journal, I exercise, I do this, and keep it more as a positive, as opposed to going, man, my fucking mental health is in the dump. Or if I say I'm having a mental health day, it's automatically to be assumed as bad, you know, as opposed to something good. And I hope that in the future, whether it's through podcasting, people listening to messages, thinking differently, that mental health will eventually not have such a negative connotation. I think it's finally, you know, mental health used to be where people went when they had a breakdown and this and that, the other. And then I think people are talking about it more, and it's becoming more normalized and more accepted, and people are starting to address it. And I think with that, we can start to move from a place of having it mean something negative to having it mean something positive. And for people to, when you talk about mental health, they go, oh yeah, I'm taking care of mine. I do this, this, and this for myself. I fill my own cup. I put on my own oxygen mask first. And that's kind of how I would like to see mental health move forward. But that's kind of what it reminded me of. I read somewhere that you were an aging specialist.
Well, aging specialist, you might call it like life alchemy, is really, you know, I have been really blessed that. Anyways, you said, did you want me to explain it? You said, I heard you're an aging specialist, and I just jumped in there.
No.
Yeah.
Because I wrote trainer, purpose, and what about it do you love? So I know you started off as a trainer.
I started off as a trainer.
But now you've kind of morphed into your own thing. And I had heard on some previous interviews, for anybody who hasn't listened, you need to go back and listen to some of the interviews on Just Be. But, you know, I would say you're getting older, but does it necessarily, I mean, when I was in my 20s, I had an 88-year-old client at Gold's Gym. So I know your age doesn't make the difference, but where did you stop just being like the trainer and helping people like with general training needs and taking a more holistic approach and kind of morphing into what is this aging specialist?
You know, I had this client, actually on my wall over here. You can't see it, but it's his hat. He was in the Navy, and this, I actually have his naval number tattooed on my arm.
Wow.
he came to me when he was 79 years old. And I've worked with people, trained with people as young as like 13. And he's not my oldest client to ever have, but he's my oldest client. And he also passed away from old age while I was his trainer. So I saw him through the last like 13 years of his life, like, and during that time, my grandparents passed away. I lost people. And his passing and what I learned and how I grew as a person during that time is, it's not only transformative to me. It 1000% shaped who I was. And it just gave me this incredible perspective. And it's given me this incredible perspective on my parents and them aging and just patience and thoughtfulness around everyone, you know what I mean? Because we're all going that direction. Mm-hmm. And so I really started learning, especially with him towards the end. It wasn't like he couldn't do the stuff that I wanted to do. It's just his mind just was going like south so fast, and just it's particularly for him, his depression was really getting to him. And just, people don't realize this, but when you get 91 years old, like, you're tired. Like you've been doing this stuff for a lot. I've only been doing this like half that time.
My wife's got a client who's 97.
Yeah. And so, there's a level of you're fighting. And so you really have to find things to live for, and you have to find purpose, and you have to find ways to, serve other people and to keep learning and growing as a person, even though like I was just, what always amazed me about Dave is that, when I would teach him something, and I was like, what? And not like something like, oh, I taught him how to use his iPhone. Like I taught him something about communication or relationships. And he'd be like, I never thought of that. And I was like, holy fuck, in 91 years, you've never thought of this? And that was always like mind blowing to me. And that just made me realize that like, oh, man, I got a lot of time to learn. And, getting in front of your physical health and getting in front of your mental health is so important, because it's a long race and you have to maintain that for the rest of the race, So like, when we were talking, when I was interviewing on you on my podcast, you were saying, hey, I worked out 3 times a week. And, and I was just thinking like, that's great. Like, that's great. Like it should be we should be focusing on the long term, because you're here to live. Mm-hmm. As much as some people are here to lift, you're here to live, and you should lift and move appropriately. You should take care of your mind appropriately so that you can enjoy this as long as you possibly can. It's so sad sometimes that people's lives become so miserable and they can't get out of their funks, or their health becomes so poor that it would just be they would feel better if they weren't here. You know what I mean? Because they didn't get in front of it,
Oh yeah. My grandfather, he retired from the city of Tyler, laying asphalt. Then he worked another 20 years till he was 87, where my dad used to work, doing heavy equipment, because that's what he did. And it was after that second retirement, once that happened, just less purpose. Then the dementia started setting in. It was awful.
I think that is something that happens to like athletes, right? And you don't think about like an athlete going through that lack of level of purpose. I think, as we age, we feel less purposeful because we're not part of conversations and we're not engaged like we should be when we were younger, if you're in your 70s and like 80s. Right. But I think there's a certain level with athletes that when they retire after 20 years of just playing a sport, they literally don't know what to do with themselves. You know what I mean? And like, we don't think that should be a problem because they're millionaires or they're only 30 or whatever it is. But you don't understand when your whole purpose, your whole entire life has been one thing, and then it's over.
Well, that's your identity. And so
Yeah.
what I was saying, like when I was telling you when I got laid off, and I had mentioned this to someone else, was the problem is typically people who care for people, not all trainers, maybe some, but healthcare workers, especially, not all. But in general, people who help people, it's not what they do, it's who they are. And so when I got laid off, it was like my identity was ripped away
For
from
sure.
me
Yeah.
because that was what who I identified as. So like with athletes, kind of what you're saying, they've spent all this time probably playing peewee all the way up through professionals. And that's a huge part of their identity. And so it's not just that they retired or stopped playing football and they have all this money. That was their identity.
Right.
And now their identity is gone. And that's what causes that stir. And this is where I often caution myself. You know, the thing is I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change how I am, but I always worry the same with the podcast. Is my identity wrapped up in it too much to where if it were ripped away, would I end up in that same place? So
I've been doing my podcast for almost 5 years. I'm only for the beginning of part of it, I only release an episode every other week. So it's only like 26 episodes a year. So it's not going like super fast, right? Like that's what I could maintain. And I remember asking one of my friends, I was like, do I talk about the podcast too much? And he was like, you talk about it a lot. And I was like, that's real unfortunate. You know what I mean? Because he's like, you know, your identity is wrapped up in it. And like, I mean, there are literally days where I'm just like, I'm not going to fucking do this anymore. This is fucking stupid. Like, not. And then there are days where I'm just like totally in love with it. And so like, I don't feel like my identity's wrapped up in it. But also there's a part of me that like, if I were to quit today, there are like, 20 unreleased episodes. And would that just sit and would I find my identity in that I didn't finish what I started, but I don't know if that counts. I don't know if being very passionate about something and being really into it, just like anybody else would be into any other hobby or career or
you almost
whatever.
have to be.
Yeah. I mean, like if you, I don't know if you're going to do something like go all in.
Well, because this is what I can say. I don't know if you can identify with this, but there's sometimes like, and this is how I feel like I know, whether it was like this podcast or getting to interview the guy who releases at midnight. I can remember like I'm trying to watch TV with my wife or something, trying to separate myself. And I'm sitting here kind of watching the TV, but I'm sitting here thinking of questions I want to ask the person because I'm so excited about the person I get to interview or the podcast. And I'm like, that's a good thing. You're excited about it. You're passionate about it. When you find yourself thinking about it, even when you're not trying to, I'm not making the effort. So that's something that happens to me, which makes me think about why I want to continue. But then there was also this quote I read on Instagram, I think that I saved that, said, okay, in 10 years from now or 20 years from now, when your daughter asks, why'd you give up on your dreams? What are you going to tell her? So in the past few years, like after going through everything I've gone through and then seeing that, I'm like, there's just no way I'm stopping. I love it. Whether my identity's in it. I mean, the way I care about things, be it a project or people or service to others, that's what makes me who I am. And it's what makes me good at what I do when I do it. So, I shouldn't change that just to avoid feeling hurt?
I always come back to, and I don't know if this is even relevant to what we're saying, but like I'm going to go into my 5th year of doing this for free.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't do something for free that long if you're not really liking it and involved it and have a level of skin in the game,
Right. It's true.
It's so funny. It's like, this sounds so dick. Like, this is going to sound really dick, but like, my friends will be like, your identity's wrapped in the podcast, but like, they're always the first people to like, when we meet a stranger, go like, he has a podcast. They're always the first person to say he does a podcast. You know what I mean? Like, and so it's wild that like, they would go, your identity. Well, yeah. Like, I mean, also like, that's the way you're identifying me too. You know what I mean? And I've never really thought about that. I've never thought about that, but that's also a good thing. Like, that kind of helps a little bit with my imposter syndrome around what I'm doing, to have my friends confirm that, like, one of my really good friends, just out of the blue, he was just like, he goes, man, like, he goes, you're really doing it. You know what I mean? And like, I didn't know it would take 70 something episodes for somebody to say that, but like it was a really great compliment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Hey, oh, by the way, it's really great when your friends give you compliments. Strangers can give you, it's kind of the opposite of like your girlfriend. Like when she goes to the gas station and someone gives her a compliment, she goes, oh, this guy gave me a compliment. She's all happy about it. I'm more happy about when my friends give me compliments, because when strangers do, it's like they're taking it in as a stranger would. My friends know me. And so when they go like, hey, you did a really good job, that really like means something. So, hey, people out there, when your people are doing creative shit, tell them they're doing a good job. You don't have to do it to me. It's fine. But like for other people.
So speaking of that, and we might have talked about it. You said you started it during the pandemic.
Yes, sir.
And where did besides the obvious of being the pandemic and everyone needed something to do and everybody's entrepreneurial spirit was coming out there, I can tell by what you do and what you've done for a living and kind of what you talk about that it was much more than just a time thing. Like, so there, what was that, what was the real passion behind it that got you to start it?
In some very Jerry Springer type moves, I'd gotten married and I gotten divorced. My wife had moved out. The garage in here was full of like all of her stuff, and she was supposed to come get it at some point or whatever. My girlfriend at the time had moved in, and so we're all living in sin and doing horrible stuff. And the garage empties out. And I was like, man, I don't, what are we going to do with this like space? Like, what are we going to do? I don't, we don't really see ourselves parking cars in here. It's, it's a storage space at this, it's like a regular garage at this point.
Yeah.
And so my girlfriend is a musician.
What does she play?
She plays the piano and the guitar. She was in a band. Their music's on Spotify. Clouds Are Ghosts. If you want to check it out. But I mean, and she is a musician. She's currently a musician. And so, my thought was, as I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to soundproof the garage. We'll put a split unit in here. We'll make a room so that she can record music. And so that was my initial thing. And so like, I would, and during the pandemic, I would, even when I wasn't working, like I'd work on Zoom or whatever, but then I had to be back here. I couldn't go anywhere. So I'd have to be here at home. And my daughter had just been born. And so there was a lot of just putting her in her playpen and just having her be in here. And then I would just staple the soundproofing to the ceiling, and I set up the stereo and we listen to music. And then I was like, oh, what am I going to do with the wall? So I was like, oh, music, record covers. So we'll put the record covers on there. And, and it just, I could show you pictures from the beginning. It was just like, just this wall, and used to be a garage, the full garage door, and just the workout equipment. And that was like really it. And my girlfriend hated the space. She was like, the acoustics are horrible. I don't like it. Da, da, da. And I was like, oh, well, what the fuck are we going to do this now? And so then I really had this, like, the original idea for the podcast was so huge. It was so magnanimous to think I was going to do everything I wanted to do in a podcast. So I try to accomplish everything I want to do in one podcast, and it fails horribly, because I've never done it before. And then I was like, well, I wonder if I could talk somebody else into doing this. So I talked to one of my friends that she's a real big TikToker. She's a travel person. And she was like, I'll do it. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then I just kind of reached out to another friend. And that kind of started to catch like a little bit of momentum. And once, the only thing I can compare it to is like kind of just like playing pickup basketball. Once I started doing it, it was just something that I did. And then once I started doing it, and I was like, well, who could I ask next? And like, how big could this get? And then I was like, well, what's the artwork going to look like? And then I was like, well, how am I going to brand it? And then, what's the logo going to, and then like, it just started doing things.
Kind of take shape as it comes along.
Well, I didn't give like, there is a lot to be said for just figuring something the fuck out.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just hand you a guitar and I go, for 1 month, I just want you to just pick up the guitar, just do shit with it. I don't need you to do anything, just do things. And in that 1 month, you're going to know a lot more about that guitar. Now, you might not be able to play a song, but you might know how to hold your hands and hold fret, all the things about a guitar, how to pick it, how to pick the individual strings, how to pick them in order, just by playing around with it. And essentially, like people always go, what podcast do you listen to? I don't listen to any podcast. I listen to a couple, but I'm always listening for the interviewer. I'm never, the guest is interesting to me, and I want it to be someone I'm interested in, but I'm listening for the interviewer. That's what I'm listening to how he talks and how he interviews. Because to your point, when you were doing my podcast, is like, you want to be better at this skill. And that's how I sharpened my knife. And so then it became, okay, well, how much better can I get at this? And then, it just started to like take off. And then it just became like, man, this is something I'm doing. I'm really enjoying this. Like, I just don't want this to stop. I have a friend, and he's a real big podcaster. Like, he has a real big podcast. Right. And we always meet and have coffee, and I'm always giving him ideas and going like, you should do this and blah, blah, whatever. And I realized the other day, I like doing my podcast, but I really enjoy my job even more. And if I always do the podcast for fun, if it's always for just to spread word and interview interesting people, and my job takes off because of that, or I get to do more of my job because of that, then I'm winning,
Yeah, that's an interesting, well, like, I like that you say that, because, I'm in an interesting position where I don't life coach. I don't sell anything. And this has always been a thing with the other people in the Podcast Connection Network. They're all life coaches, and their podcast is hobbyish, but also promotes kind of their business. Me, I don't sell anything. I always say I'm working on selling myself at the moment. And so, people who listen to my episodes, they know what I'm about. If somebody, I'm want to make it as a job, because I'm going to drop 2 a week and put more hours in. But regardless, if I'm open to gainful employment from someone, maybe, if somebody wants me to do something, but they're going to know what they're getting. I'm selling me, my qualities, my authenticity, my transparency, my truthfulness, so that no matter what, somebody can go, hey, he's got this set of skills. And, so I think that's awesome that you feel that way about your job, how much you love it. And that's kind of, in support of that, but that you also enjoy this. I'm almost a little envious that I don't have something else like whether it's the training thing or taking care of people. Although, we do a little bit like with my wife, she takes care of older people. And so there's oftentimes I'm having to fill in or sub in, and I get a lot of enjoyment out of that, out of helping the older people, because there's so much you can learn, I think, too, from just talking to older people.
I work with this kid right now. He's going to turn 18. I've been working with him since he couldn't drive. So it must have been like 14 or something like that. Right. And, these are my two favorite moments with him. My first favorite moment is I gave him full permission to tell me when I've told him a story before. And so I'll start saying something. He'll go, "You told me that before." And I'm like, "Shit." You know what I mean? But I also learn like all this crazy terminology and all these things that like kids do. And he introduces me to music and stuff. And I'm just like, it's so interesting. And it's just as interesting when I hang out with an 80-year-old client. You know what I mean? Like I always tell people, and this applies to the mental aspect of ourselves too. Everybody, as long as nothing tragedies has happened, has 2 arms, 2 feet, 2 hands, 2 legs, 2 ears, 2 eyes. I mean, 1 nose, 1 mouth. Like we all have brains. And so whether you're 13 or 83, you're experiencing the same shit, just at a different phase in a similar way. And so a lot of my coaching, like I don't coach 13-year-olds much different than I coach 83-year-olds. There are differences in the minute little details of what I do, but the overall idea is still the same, right? Are you trying to find ways to learn? Are you trying to find ways to serve? Are you trying to find ways to create in your life so that it creates stability around your mental, physical, and metaphysical or purpose, right? And the cool part about it is it's your own custom prescription. Like what I do can be a great suggestion, but like it's not going to be necessarily your solution. And like once you realize that, and you realize that you have to be the life alchemist that finds the way to make gold out of your life, then you go, "I'll take a little piece of this, I'll take a piece of that. Hey, Scott, what do you think about this?" Like that, my job is really like confirming directions which have no effect on me. You know what I mean? Like just giving someone the confidence. I worked with this girl recently and she was having trouble with just like some lifts, some like physical lifts, like working out lifts. And really it wasn't the physical lift she was having a problem with. She was having a problem with the mental part, that the last time she lifted like that, she got hurt. And so I had to go, if we prep your body in the best way we can possible, then the chance of you getting hurt go way down. And then now she's lifting again, lifting the way she wants. Her mental fortitude is increasing, and she hopefully can go back to doing jujitsu, which is something she quit when all this happened. And so that's amazing. You know what I mean? But that's a mental thing. That's the mental physical struggle that they're constantly like having.
Oh, I love that. Oh,
Is this one of the Sixers?
Yeah, but I'm gonna save this one.
Okay, yeah, that's what.
Because this one's more of it's kind of something that I had on my list of questions. Crazy. What do you miss most about childhood?
I just thought about this the other day. My girlfriend is not only a musician, but she's an artist. I have a degree in art. That's what I got my degree in school. I've always been an artist. And right now, if you walk into our house, our whole floors are covered with butcher paper that she has taped down, and they're just drawing like these scenes and these people and like all this stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
It's very cool. We don't do any devices in our house. And so, with that being said, there's going to be unique ways that we're going to explore stuff, and I have to be cool with that too. You know what I mean? Because I want the benefit of what my daughter's gaining out of that. Anywhoosie. Oh man, I totally forgot my train of thought. So I was watching her draw, and I was thinking about that. So I grew up in a really small town, and all we had was this really small HEB. And if you're not from Texas, HEB is like the tits of grocery stores. But this is before HEB was like the mega giant of grocery stores that it is now. And just little in my hometown, it was just like little. Like if you've ever been it's 5,000 people. So I mean, the HEB is not big.
I'm from a town of 6 to
Yes.
800.
So you get what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Y'all, do you even have an HEB?
We don't have an HEB. We have Brookshires.
Yeah,
which,
Brookshire. Yeah,
not
Brookshire
Brookshire
Brothers.
Brothers. This is
just Brookshires. Oh, wow.
And it's the whole Brookshires family. And it's like HEB of Tyler. And they thought about, they put out feelers 3 or 4 years ago that they were going to sell to HEB, and everybody was so fucking happy. And it was a lie.
Anywho, and so they would sell this manila paper. And my mom would just buy like just packages of it. And I would just sit in my room and I would just draw. I would just draw all the Muppets characters. I would draw fake athletes. I would make up stuff. I would just draw all the time. And then I would enter all these art fairs and stuff like that. And I guess I until I saw my daughter doing it, I just didn't remember how much I did that and how impactful that really was on me and how it even impacts me now. And, you know, if I had had like a device, would I have even explored that? Would I even have that memory? Would I, so I miss, the things I miss about childhood is like the freedom of all the things that you could do without the responsibilities of being an adult. But being an adult's pretty cool too.
It was just quite different. We didn't have all the distractions.
Well, we had different types of distractions.
Right. We did.
And they, I don't know if they were good or bad,
Oh, which celebrity do people say you resemble?
Okay. So, okay, I'll give you 3. And I have been Vanilla Ice for Halloween. And so I if I'm clean shaven and short hair, I mean, me and Robert Van Winkle we look a lot alike. I get Matthew McConaughey a lot. But I think that is just mainly because we have a similar accent and I kind of sound like him and stuff. I can kind of see it in my face, but I think people just get carried away. And then the third one is, if you look up here, there's a picture of me dressed as Jesus. And it's over here behind next to the Whataburger sign.
Oh yeah.
And so I feel like I probably kind of look a little bit like Jesus.
Holy cow.
Which, probably not. I look like the white version of the Roman Catholic version of Jesus. I probably don't look like Jesus really looked in real life, but yeah, those are my lookalikes.
If you could give all human beings one virtue, which would you choose?
It's so funny that so I usually do 6-pack of questions.
Uh-huh.
And I had a podcast this morning, and that's one of the questions I asked the guests, and we actually had a conversation about it. And I really wish, I don't know if this is a virtue, that's the only problem. I really wish I could just give people just awareness. You know what I mean? Like there's just so many great things that come out of your own awareness. And it's so hard to achieve for some people. It's so, and I think a lot of times when we, we get in finger point matches with people and they're like, you do this and you do this and you do this. I think there's a lot of valid times where you could go, well, that person's just projecting on me. But if someone's saying you do this, this, and this, that would be a great time to do a self-inventory and have the awareness to go, do I do that? Am I like that? Is that the person that I am? And those are moments where you can really, really grow. And I think that instead of doing that, we get really offended and then we're mad at that person for pointing out something that's probably true, And look, I've had plenty of people point out things that I really don't think that I am, but I really do. I leave that person and then I really think about it. And I'll even go take it as far as like, if I change my mind and I go, that person's right, I'll even like text them or call them and go, you know what? I owe you an apology for this. Or like, you're right. That is something I do need to work on. Now, I'm not saying that happens really often because I feel like I do carry around a lot of awareness.
Right.
But, it's my new awareness, and the working in that category is one of the greatest gifts I've given myself. It's the one thing that I wish people could experience, because it's also very freeing. It's free to have the awareness and the recognition about the things that you are and the things that you aren't, so that you don't get offended and people don't step on your shit, and that you can be whole as a person even when somebody else is having a shit day. A lot of my work involves people not having the best of times. That's why I'm a coach. So that means I'm going to pick up a lot of emotions and feelings, and I have to be able to not take care of that into a next session, or even not carry that to my family, or even not just carry it because I don't want to have a shit day. You know what I mean? There's a lot of like mental, like regeneration I got to do in between appointments and stuff. And so, awareness would be, is awareness a virtue? Is that a virtue?
It may be.
What are virtues? Tell me.
I don't know. I was thinking of that.
This is when I need like an assistant.
What do they say? Like, something is patience is a virtue?
Yeah. So awareness is a virtue.
Yeah. What did somebody say? I don't know if it was your podcast or somewhere else I heard. What is it? If you walk outside and you run into an asshole, then you ran into an asshole. If you walk outside and everyone you run into is an asshole, then you might be the asshole.
I just think that, like, before, it's that old saying, like, people in glass houses shouldn't throw stone. Before you go just like kicking in other people's doors, please make sure that all your shit's in line.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And also, like, that's probably not your responsibility anyway. Like, it's not my responsibility. I say this all the time. It's not my responsibility to manage the relationship between my daughter and my girlfriend. That's their responsibility.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Now, there are moments where I have to step in and go like, hey, what are we doing here, man? Are we all a team? Like, why are we, but like, ultimately that is their responsibility. Right. And so, like, I look at it as kind of like threefold. Like, I have a relationship with my girlfriend, I have a relationship with my daughter, and I have a relationship with the two of them together. And those are all different, right? They're all different relationships, and I should treat them accordingly. You know what I mean? Because when it's a relationship with my daughter and my girlfriend, ultimately me and my girlfriend need to be teammates. I preach to my daughter, we're all on the same team, but ultimately if one of us fails as the leaders, the other one has to pick the other one up and have their back. And then kind of, if something goes south, talk about it later and be unified in front of our kid so that, she feels like we're all on board. And, and let me just say this, in my humble opinion, it's working. You know what I mean? So I'm going to keep doing it. Because my daughter's amazing and she's funny and she's smart. Everybody says about their kid, but let me tell you something. We had our first overnight trip, like where my daughter spent the night somewhere else. I think maybe we talked about that, right? And when, so the next day was Mother's Day. And so she stayed over, and then my parents brought her to Mother's Day lunch or whatever. And I went up to my dad and I said, I go, how'd it go? And he goes, man, she doesn't ever shut up, does she? And I was like, no. And she's just that kind of person. She's so engaging and sweet and stuff like that. And I really think that's because of the way we handle her, and then the no devices, you know what I mean? She has to talk to us. There's nothing keeping her separated from us. She's always involved. She's involved in everything we do, cooking and cleaning, and like, all I have to say is, hey, like, can you go please throw that away? No problem. Throw it away. She's awesome.
You got to watch when they start listening. My daughter's old enough to have heard some of my episodes. And when I make a joke or something, and then she'll come at me sometimes and say something that kind of throws me back, and she'll be like, it's just a joke, Dad. Just like you say on the podcast, they're just jokes.
Well, I think what's really wild is that, like, because we can watch YouTube on TV, right? So she'll go, Daddy, you're on TV. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, not really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, she doesn't know any better.
Yeah.
It's like to her, I'm just as on TV as Mickey Mouse is on TV, as all of her shows are on TV. So she knows me as being on TV. You know what I mean? And so I'm hoping that gives her some confidence, like to do the things she wants to do, because it looks, every time you always hear about like a music artist and they're like really badass and stuff like that. And they're like, well, like who encouraged you to do this? And it's always like, well, my dad would always play the piano like at Thanksgiving or whatever. Or my dad always like told me that like I could do this and believed in me or whatever. And so at a minimum, what I can do as her parent is try to do that, be an example of that things can be done, so that maybe she takes it to a level that I can never take it to.
My daughter, she can use CapCut better than myself. And, she's taking graphic design. She goes to an art school, and I think taking graphic design next year. And, we're hoping that by a certain point that she can be my editor or social media manager, but essentially she would like to work as part of the podcast, be part of the team of whatever it takes to get it all done.
My daughter wants me to hire her right now. Like every time this is set up and stuff, she's trying to wiggle her way into here. Like she's like that. She's like the other day she came to me and she goes, Daddy, I will only come in there for as long as you tell me, and I will not touch anything. And when you tell me to leave, I will leave. And I was like, okay. You know what I mean? Like she knows, but she just wants to be part of all of this. And we also don't put her on the internet. So we don't put any pictures of her on the internet. And so I get in this torn space where there's all this like footage of her being in here and stuff like that. And I can't show anyone, because we're trying to do this really positive thing. But one day, it'd be retro. It'd be like, look it back. You know what I mean? Like
my daughter, I have a little Mickey Mouse chair that used to be hers, or Minnie Mouse. And our multi-poo will come in and lay in there in the office. And I took a picture of it one day and I said, meet the producer of the podcast. And my daughter saw the picture and replied to the thing saying, hey, I thought I was the producer. Another question. How do you define integrity, and do you have it?
I think that, well, let me start with, I do think that I have it. I think it is, from a very young age, that is the example that both my parents, but specifically my dad, showed that it is like it's integrity over everything. That your word and what you do is who you are. And I always thought that was like awesome that my dad would, when everyone disagreed, would say, no, this isn't right. Like we don't, we don't do this. And so, I think your integrity, not to sell my own shit, but it's very close related to your authenticity. And if you're really authentic as a person, it's not hard to have integrity,
I agree.
But, it's our pitfalls of ourselves, the dark parts, the ego, the shadow self, all those terms, that part that we're trying to protect, that we don't want anybody to see, that gets us to do stuff that we wouldn't normally do. And then they make shows called Dateline and, to
Catch a Predator.
To Catch a Predator. I mean, really, like, it's like, it's, but I was very lucky. Like, I always tell people, I'd probably have tattoos on my face if my parents weren't so strict. You know what I'm saying? Because if they hadn't been as strict as they were, how bad would this have gotten? And so I feel really blessed to have my parents. They did the best with what they had.
Agree. My parents are both still alive, and I don't see my dad every day, although I can. I have that option. Me or my wife usually see him daily. Him and my mom don't live together, but I see my mom daily, and I'm grateful for it, especially as I get older and whatnot. And the same thing kind of goes back with, during the pandemic and when our lease was ending and we knew maybe I was foreshadowing I wouldn't be employed, but when we moved back with my grandparents on the 12 acres I grew up with, there was also a certain gratefulness for having my daughter get to know them.
Oh man, like, when I was a kid, my mom and my grandmother did not get along for a period of time, and we didn't see her for a while. And it didn't have like some like monument. I'm not in therapy because of it, But I knew when I had my daughter, I was like, short of my mother or father abusing her, I would never keep them from, even if we were not getting along, I would make sure that, because it's so important. When I started the podcast, the idea is that, when you go into like Hispanic homes or Asian homes, they bring you in, they feed you and you laugh and joke and whatever. And so I want to bring people in and we're going to eat and we're going to drink and we're going to have a conversation. And that was kind of like the whole idea, and, oh shit, I went total blank. What was the initial question?
Defining integrity, but you were talking about you were saying, I was thinking multi-generational households.
Oh yeah. And so, in these multi-generational homes, like Hispanic homes, Asian homes, like we're
Asian.
like you just get to experience what I experienced in like the aging process with Dave.
Yeah.
You see that, you see your grandparents get old, like, and stuff like that. And it's so unfortunate. One, when people keep people from their parents because of issues that they have with them or whatever. But two, that like, back in the day, before travel became what it is, people didn't move away very far.
Right.
And so now that we're far away, it's really your responsibility as a parent to make sure that your kids see their grandparents, because that is super important. I probably call my mom every other week going like, you want to take her? You want to take her? And my mom's like, well, I have this through whatever. I'm like, whenever you want. And it's not because I'm just trying to unload my daughter on it. It's because I understand that realistically, she has a limited amount of time with my mom, and I want to maximize it while I can,
That's why when I was saying that a couple of weeks ago, I almost had a meltdown, and it took me hours to figure out or admit even to my wife that the whole reason I was kind of upset was because I had taken my daughter to the dentist, and after the dentist, we were waiting a few hours to get our passports, and we went to my dad's. She didn't feel great because of the teeth and all that, but then she was kind of wanting to get something to eat and kind of do this. And I was upset that she didn't want to hang out for 2 hours with my dad. And, but I didn't want to let that out. So I kind of stuffed it down and kind of isolated a little bit and ended up Ubering and whatnot, listening to podcasts, clearing my thoughts, trying to figure out why I was really upset. And it was, and it was because, I didn't say anything to my daughter, but, it's hard. She's 10. It's hard to explain, like, my dad, who's older with health problems, who just got a scooter chair today, has, less time, and when my grandmother passed away, we spent Christmas Day together, whatever year it was, maybe 2022. And we went out of town to spend Christmas and New Year's with in-laws. And when we came back, she was in the hospital and she never came home.
Mm-hmm.
And so, her not understanding that, it upset me, but I didn't want to take it out on her. But I should have dealt with it better in a way. But, kind of like you were saying, it's important to me that she gets to spend this time, or that he gets to spend the time with her, because I know how much my dad, my dad and I didn't talk for 10 years. And the first time we talked after 10 years, he's like, oh, you're married and you have oh man, I don't know. Maybe she was 5 at the time, 4 or 5-year-old daughter. So we had been that disconnected.
Yeah.
And so I'm even grateful that, nothing happened to either one of us in that 10 years we didn't talk that couldn't be resolved or,
For sure.
and now we get to hang out. I take him to his doctor's appointments, and we went to Dallas for his wheelchair a couple weeks ago, and I took him to Pluckers for the first time because he doesn't get to do anything like that.
Yeah.
And so, it's fun, and that time's important. What's the most fun you've ever had at a party? I don't know if you want to answer this one.
No, I'm good with it. Okay, I was making sure that I all of a sudden got this like weird feeling that I wasn't recording. Like I was like, holy shit, like did I push? I was like, I can't remember if I pushed the button. And so I was gonna let you ask a question. And so now I'm gonna get back in the mode. Oh, okay. Look,
Most fun you ever had at a party without your girlfriend here?
No. You know what's so let me just say this. I tell people this all the time. There's a bunch of things I tell people that they are like, your relationship is doomed. And I'm like, you don't understand really how a relationship works if you think that my relationship's doomed. So my girlfriend doesn't listen to any of my podcasts.
Neither does my wife.
Okay. And it's so great that she allows it to be mine. And there's probably a level, there's things she doesn't want to hear. There's probably stuff that she would love, that she would be blessed if she heard it. She would be grateful if she heard it. But it's just like, it's not, she wants to spend her time with other things, and it allows it to be my art, which is like great. The most fun I've ever had at a party. I mean, I have been blessed to do a lot of partying. I once went to a fraternity party that was in an old hospital. And so like they had taken all the rooms and they had turned them into like dorm rooms for like the fraternity guys. And then they had taken like the main kitchen area and turned it into like a dance floor. I mean, and the party was like, the hospital was huge. The place was huge. And I just never been to anything that was like.
Hey, this is Amber McCrae with Connection Over Perfection. Check out my podcast as well as many others at the Podcast Connection Network. We are all about mental health and holistic wellness. The link is in the episode description. Enjoy the show.
It was like a movie, you know. When I got married, we did a joint bachelorette party in Vegas. And we went to a pool party, and we had a cabana, and I think the total bill was like, it was like over $2,000. That's a lot for a $2,000 bill. Is like that's hefty for me.
Yeah.
I'm not balling that crazy, right? And I remember being like, holy shit, this is so much fun. I don't even give a fuck that this bill is $2,000. You know what I mean? But then, you take examples like that. And then one of my friends throws a crawfish boil every year. It's one of my favorite things to do every summer. It's usually like in July. He has a pool. It's huge. He tells all the neighbors, they shut down the block. Like it's a whole thing. And that's some of my favorite, that's my favorite time every year. That we're going to go to this. My daughter's been going to it, I had a friend, we had a birthday party in Mexico at a resort, and we all bought like matching, short sleeved suits, the ones that are like the shorts and the jacket, they have the crazy prints. And we went to one of the restaurants like on the resort and like partied all night, went into Mexico when it was like still safe. So it's like, I think a lot of the really great times I've had like partying has always been just really great people. I've always been very lucky to have like really great friends. Or friends that wanted to party, friends that wanted to do things. Like, I feel like the hardest part about having a good time is talking people into it. Because I want to do like
kind of maybe like leaving the bullshit at the door, kind of like giving themselves permission to.
Well, it's kind of like, for my 44th birthday, I did a Houston H-Town rap birthday party. So, because my Houston Astros jersey said "still tipping" on both bows. You got the whole thing, and I was very happy that people dressed up. But like, it's hard sometimes to get people to dress up and do things. They dress up on Halloween or dress up for parties or themes and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, what else are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, and I think a lot of people don't dress up just because they don't. I don't know. I don't know why they don't dress up. I think they don't dress up because it would require engagement, and almost maybe that engagement is too much.
I think it's like, have you noticed in getting older and more self-discovery per se, that kind of getting back to some of those childlike qualities, and that childlike quality kind of behavior is go all out, dress up, have the fun. Where I think as adults, sometimes it could be like, for instance, I'll put it to you this way. One, I hate jeans. I never wear jeans unless my wife makes me wear jeans. I have left Tyler to go to Florida when it was 42 degrees and I was wearing shorts, a thermal, and a t-shirt. But we would have jean day or whatever and t-shirt day at the clinics and hospital. I could never get away with t-shirts because of sleeves, but I would never wear jeans because I'm like, I fucking hate jeans. Like, I'm an adult, I'll just wear my normal slacks. And I think a lot of adults kind of get into that, like, I'm an adult now, I'm just going to wear these khakis or whatever, and we're going to go see Bob and Steve or go over to a barbecue, and I'm just going to wear what I'm wearing because that's too much, or I don't have that, and I don't want to get out in that, or I don't want to participate. And I feel partially like maybe that's the old me that would have said that, would be like not very festive. But then it was a couple years, maybe 2 Easters ago, like, I always hated holidays and we had such a great time. And I was just like, oh, like, have fun, go all out. And then this year, Easter wasn't as grand. And I was like, but I came kind of prepared to have fun again. Like, I gave myself that permission to let loose so I think that's probably what a lot of people struggle with, is just that, like, there's some sort of disconnect of like, I'm an adult now, I'm not going to fuck with that. But kind of getting back to that childlike, hey, I'm ready to dress up or have fun. But it's also kind of like you get to dress how you want. And so, you're much different than some guy who probably works at the bank, and when he's going out to eat on a Friday night with his wife and kids, he's probably wearing Bugle Boys or Dockers. And
Nobody knows what Bugle Boys are. I'm the only person.
And that's an old reference.
But you know what's so? I think about this every once in a while. I think about my parents, and God bless Elaine and Morris, but they're pretty square. They're normal Texas people, and I look like this. And then I am my daughter's dad, so she knows me. She knows me like this as like daddy, right? And dressing like this, and the whole thing. And I always think, like, what is her experience like growing up with me as her dad? You know what I mean? Because I couldn't even fathom growing up with me as my dad. You know what I mean? And so what I'm really hoping is that, I've said this before, that, she's born with all these kids are born with all this like imagination and wonder. And then, the world and your friends and peers and adults just beat shit out of you. Yeah, just beat it all out of you to where you're like, oh, I don't want to be creative anymore. It's no use. Like, nobody likes my shit. And, there's a real level of like, because she's experiencing that and I'm doing this all at the same time, that I'm extending her part of that and she's extending mine too, where I had it turned off for a really long time. I feel very blessed to have my daughter now and not have had her when I was in my 20s or 30s because of how much of a mess I was. You were, go ahead.
No, I was saying agreed. I'm the same way.
No, you were asking like, how did I get all this experience in like in functional aging or life alchemy or coaching like life? Well, you know, when you take the 20 plus years of physical experience I have, and then I saw my first therapist when I was 20 or something like that. And I went to therapy off and on for almost 25 years. It's like this whole secondary education, you know, that I gained. Multiple therapists, different types of therapists, different situations, like, you know, and so all of that has given my personal life and then the lives I've watched that give me a lot of perspective on like what this should look like and how you can do it better, you know?
Oh, so I'm going to ask you one of my questions before I ask the last six back.
Yeah.
And it's kind of because we're on this topic, but so my wife had 2 children from a previous marriage. They were 2 and 3 whenever they split, and my wife and I started dating. And they're now 21 and 19. One's about to be 20 next week, or in a week and a half. But so I had my first biological daughter at 36, 37-ish, maybe even later, 37 maybe. But how's being a father changed you for the better, if it has? And what do you love most about being a father?
You know, I'm really glad that I had a daughter because if I'd had a son, I would have known everything already, and I would have been doing what we tend to do when it's the same sex, which is like, I'm a girl. I know how to be a girl. Let me show you how to be a girl. I'm a boy. Let me show you how to be a boy. And so ultimately, like, we're learning together. And that process of learning together about who she is as a girl has really it's really changed my perspective. This sounds so fucked up, but it's true. It's really changed my perspective on women and how I want women to be treated, how I want my daughter to be treated, how I want my girlfriend to be treated, how women should be treated, what they should do, how they should be able to take care of themselves. You know, like it's so weird. I love that the WNBA might become something. That sounds so shit. That sounds fucked up to say that, you know, because it's not really where it needs to be yet.
Right.
But if it really becomes viable in the way it should, what amazing example to
Mixed
set.
martial arts, UFC.
Yeah, like that's
Took off.
I mean, you know, so like, you know, all these, you know, all the women's sports that are really like, I find myself going, you know, like now, like it sounds messed up. Now I'm interested because I have skin in the game. I have personal skin in the game because of her. And so, you know, it's just made me incredible. I think a child in general makes you incredibly more aware, but I think it made me really aware of like how everyone sees me, not just certain people or certain situations or certain things, because how those people see me is also how she sees me and what kind of example am I setting, you know, and that is really, it blows my mind that people would have children and don't go through this thought process. It blows my mind that people could have children and still be selfish to the point where it's harmful to their children. Like, it's cool to be selfish if it's not harming really you or anybody else. But like when you're being selfish and it's harming your children, that's, I can't even fathom. I can't even fathom, you know,
it's like being selfish to fill up your own cup so you can give back to your family versus, you know, like my time taking out in the morning. But yeah, that's about as selfish as it gets.
My selfish time is literally like the time that I carve out myself that I just don't make for anybody else.
Right.
But even in that same time, if there was an emergency with my girlfriend, I mean, obviously they come first, right?
Yeah, I cut my workout the other day to go get my daughter from school.
Right. And so, but I think where people get caught up is they're like, okay, well, I got to be available for everything. And it's like, no, you don't. And also that's fucking annoying. And also like that person doesn't want that. And also you wouldn't want that. You wouldn't want somebody just hanging around being ready for and plus going to take care of yourself, working out, it shows a great example. I mean, it just like, it goes endless. Like, you know what I mean? Like, again, back to the question you asked before, what would you give people? Awareness? Because if you had awareness, you would understand all this shit. You would understand that your kids are seeing this. You would understand that your kids aren't fucking up because of a kid at school or something they see on TV or whatever. If you're directly involved in your kid's life, they're fucking up because of you and your lack of awareness around who you are as a person, how long you're on the device. Like people always complain about kids being on devices. Half the time I'm anywhere, the parents are on devices too. You know, I'm like, me and her go to these indoor play places, right? I'm the only parent inside the tubes and inside the contraption in the indoor play place. The rest of them are standing on their phone and I'm not trying to make a judgment, just an observation. They're also, most of them are overweight.
Yeah, I know. I've been there, seen that.
So it's kind of like, you know, I do that for two reasons. Three reasons. I want to spend time with her. I want her to be active. And also, if something goes down, I'm right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I remember I went to an outdoor playground, and I swear I could have stolen 3 kids and the parents wouldn't even notice.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We've had
that. I'm just like what? Like what?
We had a lady one time, we were at Sonic and my daughter was with her friend, but they were much smaller, much younger. And this lady had a special needs child and she was like, and the kid kept trying to grab like my daughter and her friend and like by the arm and physically bring them. And the lady's sitting over there eating mozzarella sticks and on her phone. And I'm like, especially if you have a child that needs to be monitored, you need that. You need to be aware, like you can't be on your phone. Just whatever, you know, I mean, I can remember being at McDonald's one time and my daughter was on the indoor playground. This was obviously before COVID, but it wasn't even her. It was another kid that like hit their head or started crying or something, but it happened so fast. I thought it was whatever. My wife was like, oh my God. She's like, you took off up the slide like so fast. I was like, well, I mean, like I thought she was at the top, like, and I thought that was her. Like, I'm not gonna wait like down here for my child. I'm gonna, like you say, I'm gonna go in the tube and go get her or whatever. And I definitely think that's it is a big difference that you see today, especially with devices and stuff. But you know, I think too that, you know, parents are also kind of missing out on the opportunity to spend that time with the kid.
Absolutely. Like I kind of have this rule, and I'm being loose about this, but like I'm only on my phone when I'm alone.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like when I'm by myself, that's when I doom scroll. That's when I, do like stuff on my phone. Only when I'm by myself, because at any other time I'm probably taking away from whatever else I'm like doing. Right. And so, I use Google Maps.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's, but it's one of those things like I'm not doing selfish stuff on my phone when I'm with other people. I remember I had this birthday and it was a dinner at a restaurant and was our food there? The food hadn't come yet, I don't think. And I just stood up and I go, it's my birthday and I want everybody to put their phones in the middle of the table. And we're not gonna do them, whatever, right? And everybody kind of moan and groan and blah, blah, whatever. Right. So we did it. And this is what I realized in this little short experiment is that a lot of times if a conversation is going on at a table and you pick up your phone, you disconnect out of that conversation and then you kind of get caught up in this other thing, and then you might put it back down, but now you're out. And when you're in and not distracted, you're in, and then you add value or add things to the conversation. And so really everybody has to be off their phone for it really to work. It can't just be, and it's unfortunate that we get so caught up in our phones like that. But like whenever I meet people for lunch, the first thing I do is put my phone on silent and turn it face down. That's the absolute first thing I do. And I turn my watch to like do not disturb. It's an hour.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think I even have my do not disturb set up to like my girlfriend. That's only one person.
Yeah.
So, but like those are intentional. That's intentional shit. You got to be intentional about that. And people just, they don't. And when you don't, then before you know it, like you're on your phone. Like it's like it's sitting here and then it just goes like this. You're just sitting there and you're just like, and it just like jumps to your hand. You're like, oh, I'm holding my phone all of a sudden. You know what I mean? It's crazy how it just ends up in your hand all of a sudden.
It's so funny because all that kind of goes back to what you said, which is kind of awareness. But I can tell you since, setting up my podcasting schedule and kind of treating it like a job and hours and whatnot, I've made a conscious effort that sometimes I leave my phone docked in the office where I do all my work and go to the bedroom with my wife and daughter and watch TV, Survivor, whatever we're going to watch together, our little hour for the night or 2 hours. And it's made a difference. But I've tried to consciously just be more like, because I think about it all the time. Remember when people called like back in the day, if you weren't home, you just weren't home.
Check this shit out. So me and my girlfriend we dated a long time ago and then we reconnected. So we've been together this round like 6 years or something like that. So this is only in like, maybe it's less than that, 2, 3, we'll say like 5, 6 years. So that would be what, 2019, somewhere around there, mm-hmm. Right? When we reconnected, she had a flip phone. And she currently right now has no social media. And she has a smartphone now, but that's because I was like, I need you to have a smartphone. We have a kid.
Yeah.
This is a device that is crucial. And she loves it because she's a creative person, but still no social media, still misses her flip phone and the simplicity of it or whatever. And half the time, if I text her, she doesn't respond. She never has her phone with her. You know what I mean? That's the kind of person she is. She's always just kind of not connected. She's just that kind of person. And, other people get real frustrated with that because they're used to that real connection. So they're like, oh, she never texts me back or whatever. But I always defend her. I go, well, she's just not with your phone like you are. You know what I mean? And it's made me better with my phone. The fact that she doesn't put emphasis on her phone makes me not put emphasis on my phone. Also doesn't show emphasis to our daughter that it's important.
Yeah.
And, that's why if our phone's laying somewhere, my daughter just brings it to you. She'll be like, Daddy, you forgot your phone. She doesn't try to get on it. She doesn't try to open it. She just hands it to me. You forgot it. Just a thing that we have.
Once I got laid off, I turned off any sort of notification. Like if I want mail, I'll go look for it.
Yeah.
If I want whatever, it just creates anxiety. Just tells you, I noticed that when I was still working, I'd have to turn off notifications if I took any sort of vacation because your work emails, you start seeing that little badge go 27, 28 unread emails. And you're like, it's my day off, but I got, if I don't do this now, tomorrow I'm going to have 96 when I go back. So, and it's like, at some point you just got to say, fuck it. It's so stupid.
You know what? I do this thing. So I do this thing I call it in my mind. I've never said this out loud. I call it clearing my phone. And so we'll say that I'm going to go to the gym. I'll go through my phone and I clear all the notifications, check all the emails, all the Instagrams, all the things. There's no notifications on my phone. And then as soon as I do that, I put it into quiet mode so it doesn't go off. And then I just go work out. And half the time I forget that I put it in quiet mode. And then I'm like, man, nobody even texting me. It's been 3 hours and nobody sent me not one notification. And then I'm like, oh, I forgot. And that's how easy it is, right? That's how easy it is for me to just kind of dip out and but I have to do that consciously. I have to make and go, because otherwise what I've noticed lately is I'll kind of take work with me into my workouts because my phone is such a device. It's a tool that I use for work, you know, which is unfortunate. So then I started really going like, I got to silence this thing down. And I got to make sure that because I need my time, you know what I mean? Yeah. Now other people's time is bleeding into my time, and that's what it's here for. So I can be good for other people.
Yeah. Awesome. What is the one goal that you hope to accomplish this year?
Man.
Are you like only one?
Trying
to think where we're in May, almost to the end of May. So we got about 6 months left. It's crazy.
Man, like, you know, I remember when I thought that I would just be fucking miserable forever. That my life would just, this is just life. It's miserable like this. This is what you do. And so to be on the other side of that and have such like gratitude and stuff like that, it sounds so corny and like just stupid to say something like, but like, I mean, my goal is like just to stay blessed and stay alive, like to not have anything bad happen and like to keep prospering and have my daughter prosper, you know, like there's this real kind of like messed up thing that I kind of do a lot of times. Like, you know, I every once in a while, I'm just like in my head, I'll run through and I'll say, what if something happened to her? What would you do? Like, what would you do? How would you handle that? And it's kind of this like, it's kind of this gratitude exercise because in that moment, I feel such gratefulness that she's here and that we have a good relationship and that she loves me. And I lean into that thinking that there will probably be times where it won't feel that way, or that I feel like I'm failing her, or she'll be older and she'll think I'm not doing the right things, or she'll sneak out or whatever else it is. And so I'm really focused on trying to just always keeping my gratitude up, and everything else just like grows so beautifully underneath that umbrella. You know what I mean? So I feel like I copped out on your question. So if you really,
no,
you know what, if you made me like pick a goal, like if I had like, you know, something I really want to accomplish, this is one of those, you know, how people go like, I'm manifesting this.
Yeah.
I keep saying it out to the universe. I would really love to do more, like just speaking events, just like talking. I think that, I've had a lot of thoughts about like, you know, every time I talk to somebody that is a motivational speaker or a speaker, they go, well, what are you going to talk about? You know, obviously like, what are you going to talk about? And I keep coming back to this idea that, you know, my life growing up was pretty great. Like I had a pretty great life, but I still came out with all these scars, like all these issues and all these things, even as great as my life was. Right. And then I have endless amounts of friends that their life was so much incredibly harder than mine was. Drugs, parents that do drugs, parents that are alcoholics, parents that are divorced, parents are cheating on parents, you know, one parent died, kids died, like all this stuff. And I'm just like, holy fuck, I didn't have to go through any of that, but I still came out fucked up. Like where do I get off? Like complaining about how bad my life is compared to all these other people. And when you get into comparisons, it's just a bad place to be. Right. But I think that I'm really developing these healthy ideas around that my life was tragic in the same way that everyone else's life is tragic. This is my story. That's their story. And that if I change my life in the same way that someone that got strung out on drugs changes their life, that not only will it be impactful for me and my family and my daughter, but it'll be impactful for everyone else in the same way. And my story doesn't have to be as horrible. And oh, by the way, people have my story too. They have the story of a childhood that was, you know, pretty all right, but like for some reason they just fucked up. You know what I mean?
Mine was all right, and it still.
Yeah. You know, and so I think that I've really, I'm really come to peace with the terms of like, the lack of like not comparing that and really going like embracing that, like my own unique fucked upness, embracing that, that I have people that are recovering drug addicts that tell me that they couldn't handle my life. You know what I mean? Like, and being like, and so I think, I would really like to be in a place to help people that didn't do drugs. Just normal kids. Like, you know what I mean? Like bring some normality to normality in that way, like, because I
It's
think
almost like bringing normalities to sobriety. Like everybody thinks that drinking is the norm.
Yeah.
But you're starting to see more people choose to not drink or choose to be sober somehow, regardless. Just
California sober. That's my favorite term.
Yeah. So, but I mean, kind of like you said, like, because in one of your episodes, and this is almost truthful of anybody who has ever quit drinking, like nobody ever questioned. It's not until you say, no, I don't want to drink, that everybody's got a problem with you not drinking.
Right.
And so it's kind of like, okay, but kind of like you're saying, I mean, the normal kids who don't do anything, I mean, they have their own challenges.
Yeah. I mean, like,
maybe they don't feel like they fit in because they're not doing drugs, or they don't want to drink, or they don't want to take the chance with new Coke.
I wouldn't.
I wouldn't either. But because I mean, that's what they've talked about is like, should they be handing out testing kits in schools, stuff like that. But it's like, yeah, I think, kind of what you said too about the gratefulness wasn't really a cop out, because like I said, my New Year's resolution was the word consistency, was really no matter what I do to be consistent. So I think like the concept of remaining grateful, it makes perfect sense to me. Because if you ask me what my goal would be by the end of the year, I'm like, I don't really know.
Well, my goal every day is to remain grateful.
Yeah.
I mean, I always feel like a dickhead because, I'll check on a friend. I'll go, hey, how you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm doing good, man. So good to hear from you. How are you doing? And it's always the same answer. I always give the same answer every single time. I always say, I'm blessed every single time. And I always feel like that they probably read that and they go, this fucking dude was just blessed and shit. You know what I mean? But there's no other way else for me to explain that in a life that I had before where I just didn't want to live, when you're on the other side of that, you feel so grateful for every day that you want to. And you also feel robbed of the days that you could have had if you just could have changed your mindset. You just could have thought of things a little bit different, that it could have been so much different. It could have been such a different experience. How you experience things is a lot about how you go into it and what you're thinking about it. You know what I mean? Like, and that's powerful shit. And you can call it like, like hippity dippity woo woo stuff. Mm-hmm. But let me say this. If you're a kamikaze pilot, okay, and one guy is just a kamikaze pilot and the other guy is a kamikaze pilot with a prayer, I mean, I'd rather be the guy with the prayer. You know what I mean? Like, it's that simple. It's like, if something's going to add to what you're doing, why would you deny it?
Well, you talk about, we always, and some people describe it as woo-woo shit, but your vibrational energy and, how's your vibe? Are you vibing?
I refuse I refuse you to have a bad time around me. Go ahead and try.
Well, but
try to be in a bad mood around me.
What I was saying was that it's true though. Measure energy or vibration at a concert and measure the same thing in a funeral parlor, and they're going to be different readings.
The crazy part though is like, there's going to be a heavy vibration in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In both places, there'll be a heavy vibration.
Just different energies.
I personally would fancy myself as being very empathic. So much so, especially with my clients, but just in general, I can kind of walk in a room and just start feeling shit like coming off of other people and things like that. And that sounds totally hippie and woo woo, but all I can tell you is that like it happens. Now you don't see me break down into a mental ball in a corner because I'm getting hit with all your bullshit. But like, that brings a great, like to just bring awareness to that and accept that is really kind of happening at times. And that sometimes I need to step out of a room because it's just too heavy, or, I need to step out of a conversation because it's too heavy and things like that. Like that is all like new. And I had to like kind of give myself permission. That also goes along with the idea of that my life wasn't as horrible. And so why am I having all this trauma and where I have to step out of a room? I don't have PTSD from war, but I realize that, again, it is the human experience. We adapt the trauma to what we're in currently. And if I was thrown into war at this moment, I would adapt to that and deal with what the consequences were after the same way everyone else does,
Well, and you're adjusting, you're kind of like, you're adjusting to that, you're protecting yourself. And I think as we get older, I would say, especially what we discussed when I was sitting in that chair of, I mean, I lost my train of thought for a second, but it's like this. I think as we get older, we're more like what we're willing to accept as what what you permit, you promote. And so it's kind of like, after everything I've been through, I mean, I'm a little more choosy on what I'm willing to accept as a job, from a person, from another human being, whatever. I mean, like if I try to go out and be the bigger energy when I'm Ubering and I go pick up an order and somebody's kind of having a bad day, if you can just make their day. But also if somebody's shitty to me, then I don't know if I just walk away or if I say something. I think it kind of just depends. I've gotten
I,
better.
I,
I've gotten better. Like, let's say with my wife, if sometimes my wife will do something or I'll be talking to her, getting ready to tell her something, and she'll cut me off because what I said just made her think of something. And I go, hey, you just fucking cut me off. Like, and I used to not do that. Instead, I would kind of let it, whatever. But as I've morphed and grown into, or becoming the best version of myself, the more authentic version of myself, it is about that speaking up. Or like when I was upset about, my daughter not wanting to spend time with my dad, consciously telling my wife, hey, I'm going to go Uber, you take her, leaving the passport place, you take her, y'all go do your thing. And I'm going to Uber because I'm not in the greatest headspace. But just being able to be vocal and what I'm willing to tolerate has, I think it changes with age, maybe, and authenticity. But I can't really tell if kind of like we discussed, is it a midlife crisis, or did the time that the crisis happened just happen to be midlife? Like the layoff, if that was 4 years ago, I was 43. So if I make it to 90-ish, do the crisis happen in midlife, or is it a midlife crisis?
I think that, my daughter right now, she knows everything. And I mean, like, and she'll go, Daddy, is such and such like this? And I'll be like, no. And she'll go, no, you're wrong. You know what I mean? Like she's already kind of, and it's weird to be in this, in the space I'm in, to be in this really open mind. Like I'm super open to all these ideas. And then, again, to like talk again to aging, as you get older, that scope starts to get narrow and narrow. And what you'll put up with as an old person starts to get narrow and narrow. A lot like my daughter, and you hear this before, the beginning and ending of life and how much they're the same. But really, there's a kind of running up to this midlife part. And then, if you come to the realizations of what's supposed to happen here, I think it becomes very awesome. But I think if you don't, you think that there should have been more, why isn't it like this, or this should have been here, or whatever it was, then it becomes this very negative space. And then you start on that trajectory down to a more tightened scope much faster than you should. And then you become a miserable old person.
You know, you say Titan scope and you do that, and it makes me think butthole. And I'm like, is that why buttholes are so small? A more Titan scope.
Well, you know what's so funny is I always talk about like the James Bond, like, you know, that you want to keep the aperture as open as much as possible, to take in as much as possible, because look, it doesn't matter how much you try to keep your aperture open. As you get older, it's going to narrow. I remember I would be like, hey, Dave, can we move our appointment from this day to this day? And he'd be like, and our appointment would be like at 11. He'd be like, I can't that day. I have bridge. And I'd be like, well, what time is bridge? He'd be like, 3. And I'd be like, Dave, we're working out at 11. He'd be like, I can't. It's too close together. And I'd be like, holy fuck, it's like 5 hours. You know, but like that's where he had gotten at the end. That's where he just couldn't handle more than one thing in a day. And it had to be, you know, and just that's what he needed to function. And his aperture had gotten really small. And I think that's really what kind of really drove down his health in the end. You know, I was having this conversation, I think it was today, of like, you know, as you age, if you live to be 100, what would be more important, your physical health or your mental health? And I really think that there is not one without the other. You need them both, because you need your mind to keep telling you can do it, and you need your body to keep confirming your mind that it's happening, you know?
What do you do to dementia runs in my family? How do you ward that off? Her creatine's pretty.
I think that, well, I mean, again, like, isn't like
creatine, nicotine,
isn't like marijuana supposed to be really good for dementia?
probably.
I mean, I feel like I've heard that before.
You know,
don't get me lying though. I'm not sure.
Actually, I brought this up to a friend of mine, and this is this would be a great topic for an edible episode with Kevin. I wonder if rappers and singers and stuff have less cases of dementia because they have to remember someone. I'm not talking about like Guns N' Roses or people reading teleprompters. I'm talking about like people like Eminem or people who can freestyle off the top and just come up with stuff because their mind is so active and whatnot. I wonder if they have less instances of developing dementia.
You know, my very novice opinion is that your brain is a muscle, and just like all your other muscles, it needs to be exercised and worked. And so the more energy you put into it, just like you put into your body, the more you're going to get back out of it. And you might, if it's hereditary, I don't know, is dementia hereditary? Anyways, we'll say for shits and giggles, it is. Then there's only so much that you can control. But, you know, there's this, I heard this, and like now I have a favorite quote. My all-time favorite quote is, and there's a dirtier version of this, so I'm not going to say it. I don't come to your job and slap the broom out of your hand. And there's a worse version of that. But my second favorite quote is, if you're going to jump out of the plane, who's going to pack your chute? And it better be you. I don't want somebody else packing my chute. I don't know what they're doing, right? And I think if you have that mindset responsibility around your own life, I'm going to pack my own chute.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think that anything that comes along, even including dementia, is workable and malleable, and you can change and adapt if you have that mindset. But if you don't, it can become the beginning of the end. I mean, think of all the people and all the things and everything everyone's ever overcome in the history of our world, and all of it was, you know, their mindset and how they approached it.
But you know, the funny thing is on that is, we talk about fear, you know, because my great grandmother had it. my grandmother was so fearful of getting it. So anytime like she forgot something or something was wrong, like that was this, oh no, and I think it exacerbates it. And just like you said, your mind, you could probably, I wonder if you could preemptively onset it just by worrying about it.
I think that I could be making this up, but I want to say that that stress is a big cause of like dementia and they found that stress is directly related to these kinds of
My dad has Parkinson's.
these kind of diseases and stuff. But just stress in general overall is not good. You know what the hardest thing with my clients is they come to me so mentally stressed out that if I don't diffuse that, anything I do with them physically just stresses their body out more, because physical exercise is stress.
Right.
You're putting stress on your body. That's what's growing your muscle, right? That's what's making your body be better, is the stress you put on it. So if you're mentally already stressed out, your nervous system is already shot, and then I'm just going to mess it up with a bunch of physical exercise, then you leave here totally defeated, totally beat up, and not motivated to do anything tomorrow. And so a lot of my job is just trying to get people to feel good mentally and physically so that they can go out and just do shit and not, spiral into negative things. Because ultimately we'll say that someone works with me and we don't get their head to feel better. Right. Well, now they have a higher likelihood of going to drink.
Right.
And what's that going to do to them physically? You know what I mean? So it's my job to make sure that they feel good mentally and physically so they can go tackle whatever they want to do. Because that's what I do for myself. You know what I mean? I live that for myself. So why wouldn't I do that for my clients?
It's awesome. What kind of certification did you have a long time ago?
So I am a master trainer for the National Academy of Sports Medicine. That never goes away. It's a one-time certification, but you have to keep paying for it.
Yeah. I had the CPT from NASM.
And then I studied under one of my really good friends is a what they call a gift fellow, which is the Gray Institute. And I studied a lot of the material from the Gray Institute, but I never finished my test. And I shifted my career from there. So, but I still practice a lot of that of what I do with my clients. Mm-hmm. And then I am I'm a accredited coach for the from the Jay Shetty Coaching School.
Okay.
And so between that, the coaching school, between my years of training and my own like 20 years of like therapy, I mean, I got a pretty good idea of kind of like how you shape this whole thing together.
No, I wasn't sure what I knew, like personal training had all the NASM because that's what I was, but the you see it like on Instagram, I see all these life coaches things. Sure. I know who Jay Shetty is. But yeah, that's kind of what I was wondering, because I noticed, because I had considered at one point in time, I was saying I work on selling myself, but I mean, I have a bachelor's in health and kinese. I was a personal trainer, National Academy of Sports Medicine, and then a master's in healthcare administration. And, I had considered there was NASM has like a triple one now. It's like a certified nutritionist coach, behavioral change therapy. It's like 3 certifications in one. You get 3 of them with one thing. But it's like, in a way, part of me is like, well, I mean, I don't know. Do I need a certification to tell somebody to really eat right, or what I've done, which is really just kind of as much whole food and strip away as possible kind of a thing? Or like kind of it's like with the behavior. I mean, yes, it gives you some credibility, I guess, to have some of those certifications, but with some of them, I wonder like, and then of course, is it every 2 years you got to have CEUs and, the nursing's the same way. And it all seems like a racket sometimes.
I 100%, I think I could do my job without my certifications. They did bring value to what I do, and they did shape a lot of what I do. NASM shapes a lot of what I do.
Right.
But I grew as a I grew as a person, as a trainer. I grew out of just what they coach.
Because
And
the textbook and getting ready for the test was one thing, but like in one of your episodes, you said once you get into the actual environment, that, you know, kind of like the haircutting thing, that's where you learn.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's great to know like where all the muscles are and where all the bones are and how the nerves run and stuff like that, and be able to like not kill somebody. It's also when you get in front of a person that has mental and physical issues and all the other things that come along with life. There's all these other things that like are not bones, muscle, water, organs, nerves, and you know, there's a bunch of other stuff going on. And I really realized that with a lot of my clients, a lot of what was holding them back is it's their mental stuff that's holding them back. It's not the fit. They have all the physical tools. Mentally, they were being held back. And a lot of my self-experience and experience with my clients really helped me figure out how to talk to people in a way that they hear what they need to hear and hear what I'm saying about, like, after doing all this for like so long, it just fucking, I just laugh at all the things that people do to like try to be healthy, and they can't even do the most basics of shit. Like this is free advice, and like this is not anything that you shouldn't already know. You need to get whatever amount of sleep that you need to get to be good. You need to figure that out. I know my sleep cycle. I know exactly what my sleep cycle is. I go to bed at 11. I get up at 6. It's perfect. It's the right, and I take a nap in the day, right? But you have to know your sleep cycle. You have to eat good food. You have to drink plenty of water. You have to find ways to be active. You have to find ways to be creative. You have to find ways to serve other people. And if you just did that shit, your life would be so much better. But people can't even sleep correctly. You know what I mean? And if you can't nail down your, like, it's just like, we're talking about sleep. Like, you know what I mean? We're just talking about water.
If I don't use edibles, I am lucky to sleep 5 hours tops, but it would be typically 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah. You know, and so like,
which is not, it's okay for a day kind of, but I guarantee you do that for a week, it adds up.
You know, and so, you know, it's really up to you to apply all this stuff. But like, you know, like instead of worrying about water, you know, people are like, oh, I got to do this I got to go do Orange Theory or what, you know, I got to, it's going to be this, it's going to like solve it. And it's like, you're not, like, you have to do the basic shit. Like people always ask me like, what do you do to stay in shape? I'm kind of like, I just do basic shit. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? I have a 3-year-old daughter, you know, she eats, there's sweets and things, like there's always leftovers, like leftover pizza laying around. And I mean, like, you know, I eat that kind of stuff, but I have a fancy water machine. I do intermittent fasting. I have all these other things that I do to balance that out. And I just, like, you have to make that investment.
Yeah. A lot of people too, it's like with the, whatever the new drugs are.
Like Ozempic.
I'm like, but the problem, like with any drug, one of the whole reasons I'm so happy to get off as many prescriptions as I was on is because if you don't, you will take it the rest of your life.
And if there's a zombie apocalypse, you're fucked.
Yeah, you cannot. I mean, insurance cost, copay cost, deductible cost. Like, think of all this shit. Add it all together. I couldn't tell you how much money I save, how much. And you know what the strangest thing is I promise you, like, I never took medicine till I started working in healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it is stress, unhealthy lifestyle, this and that. But now all of a sudden you have access, you have this insurance and they want you to use it. And then something's a little out of whack and then you need this. And oh, by the way, now you got to come back every 3 months because we got to make sure it's not hurting your kidneys or your liver and blah, blah, blah. And they get you on a cycle. And, I don't know. I don't know. I think, yeah, it's broken. The system's broken. That's why I don't necessarily want to participate in it. And I'm happy to kind of be out of it in a way. Although I used to think I could participate in it and maybe make a difference. You could run it how you want. But I think when it comes to when things get so big, there's too many moving pieces, too many people who stand to lose something that it's hard. Too many people got shit to gain, kind of like with the government contracts that, they're not going to change it for the better.
I think that I think people think that they can't make an impact. Okay. You know how like the thing like every vote counts?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Okay. So in staying in the theory of every vote counts, I think you can make an impact on people, and it might just be the people in your immediate circle.
Mm-hmm.
But making an impact on those people is an impact, right? And if everybody did that, it would all overlap, ripple effect, and we'd all be happy, right? But I think we look at it as like, when everybody says your vote matters, we go, oh yeah, but I mean, it's still like one vote of like 8 million. So like, really does it matter? And like, if you look at it that way, if you look at like, I can't make an impact because I won't make an impact on 8 million, then yeah. But if you look at it as like, I can make an impact on 3, then that seems a lot more attainable. I think that was also part of when I kind of started the podcast. It's like, I've had people ask me, like, why do I do it?
Mm-hmm.
And it's always come back to 2 reasons. One, what we've already talked about, that it sets an example for my daughter about what can be done. But 2, I know my brother listens a lot, and we went through a lot of the same things. And I think that it really helps our bond for him to hear stories and things and know that I was there, and it's kind of a process for him to process some of the stuff that we went through. And I think if it does that, that's like, I mean, that's more than enough,
Kind of like you were saying with the ripple effect is like I signed the koozie, go out and be the person you want to meet.
Right.
If everybody did that, unless you're just an asshole and will like being an asshole, then, if you wanted to be kind, it's kind of like, hey, if you go out there and be that person with like when I pick up from Uber, if it's a stranger, go out and be that person you want to meet. And if everybody did that and everybody was just a little bit cooler, to each other and a little more aware, yeah, the world could change.
Well, like back to we were talking about, like, be authentic, they'll adjust. Like, I always look at it like I'm going to like try to have a bad time with me. Like, you're going to have to adjust. You know what I mean? Like there's, and when we think of people adjusting, I feel like sometimes always comes back to a negative connotation, but really, like when I tell people that, like I'm going to be authentically me and you'll adjust, it's really like, I'm not having to adjust to a negative. Like we're going to have like a good time.
Yeah.
And I think that, unfortunately our natural mindset always drifts towards kind of negative.
It's kind of like what I said with mental health. Like we put these negative connotations on so many things that maybe should be positive, but
really, really quickly, because I always sit on that side.
Uh-huh.
Like I've never just sat over here and just looked at like all these koozies.
Yeah.
And like when I could show you where the first one is, because it's not exactly at the end down here. And when I first started doing it, I just never would have dreamed that it would almost that whole wall would be full, and that I'll have to like bring those albums down and keep going. You know what I mean? It's kind of crazy.
Progress.
Well, that's my life meter filling up. You know what I mean? It's like,
oh yeah,
it's like, it's just like, it's slowly like filling across, and it's so cool. Like there's just, like not in, I guess maybe humble brag kind of way,
Oh, it's good. It's
like,
good.
you know, we created all these memories. Like there was like, I mean, I can just look up and tell you stories about each one and the person that was here and whether like I knew them before or I didn't and stuff like that. And just like, that's really cool. My favorite part of the podcast is making the podcast. It's never editing or any of that. It's the actual recording. That's the best part.
Yeah.
And everything else is just stuff I got to do.
I'll tell you what though, what I've started to kind of appreciate about editing is I've started to look at it as sometimes if you give it a little bit of time, you go and you're like, oh, that was a good fucking conversation. And you're like, so I can remember I made a post the other week or last week and I was like, editing can suck. It's like 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. I go, or this is the thing I needed. I forgot he said that. And that was kind of so impactful. And I can't wait for the audience to hear it because, you know, you think somebody's going to get something out of it. And we're both obviously love to help people.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of been like that whole thing of going, hey, you know, I say if the one person who needs to hear it today hears it, then that's who it was for.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I mean, there were things I never thought of a certain way. You know, I mean, there were times I wanted to check out myself. And then I heard somebody say, I don't know if it was a podcast or I read it. If you check out yourself, unalive yourself, then there's a 1 in 3 chance that your kid will do it. And I said, well, the whole fucking purpose of the podcast is so my daughter doesn't have to suffer through some of the shit I had to.
Right.
So I'm sure is not putting that on her. And, you know, even though I have tough moments sometimes and they're like, fuck. But I always kind of go back to that as there's just, I can't do it. And so, you know, if somebody hears those words just like I heard them and they can relate and that pushes them forward or even pushes them into something greater, then it's all worth it, you know? And that's kind of like the same. I mean, the guys in the Podcast Connection Network, they saw something in me. They breathed some life into me when I needed it and gave me something I needed back, something that was there with me, inside of me and dormant, but it just kind of like you said, I needed that affirmation that I was headed in the right direction.
Yeah.
And with that, it's given me so much. And then the confidence and, you know, the process of doing it and keeping doing it and seeing the progress, like you said, seeing the koozies, seeing how far you come. And when you look at that, kind of like your friend says, like, you're fucking doing it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, yeah, you know, I mean, you say, did I ever visualize sitting in front of somebody in a podcast? I did. And here I am.
Yeah.
And so it's fucking cool. And I had an awesome time.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. We're so much alike. It's just so strange. Kind of. Well, that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from. Remember, go out and be the person that you want to meet.
Let's go.
Asteroid of fear.